Oh yeah, I still do these. So here we are at the end of the trilogy. People far and wide have stated much dismay about the ending to this game, but it's been a while, so let's see how I feel. Now, something I won't be talking about in this video is the multiplayer, as it's not included in the remaster collection. I also didn't play much of it back on the original release, as I started playing the series much later and, well, I had no one to play with. But basically it was a co-op PvE mode where you had to hold off enemies in waves. You could play as different species to shoot the crap out of Reapers, and there were microtransactions and loot boxes, so yay. Just a heads up, I'm going to be going through this plot assuming everyone from Mass Effect 2 survived. Because, well, I gotta go for the perfect run, otherwise I'll show off my scrub status. We can't have that. 6 months after the events of Mass Effect 2, Shepard is brought back to Earth and is put under house arrest because of his ties with Cerberus and for killing a bunch of people by blowing up a mass relay. Without much warning, Earth loses contact with their moon base, which can mean only one thing: the Reapers are here and they are destroying everything. Shepard and Anderson hailed to Normandy for extraction, but Anderson decides to stay behind to help organize resistance on Earth while Shepard goes and gathers help from the other Council races. Before leaving, we see a small child that Shepard met earlier get blown up. And I know this is gonna sound weird, and I mean this in the vaguest possible sense, but for some reason this kid's facial structure reminds me of my roommate from my first year of college. And just like that, I don't care anymore. After leaving, Shepard gets a call from Admiral Hackett telling him to go to the Prothean archives on Mars, as our old pal Liara seems to have found something that might help fight the Reapers. Why is she there? I don't know, but whatever it is, it must be important. Joining Shepard is Kaidan and new character Lieutenant Jersey Shore James Vega. More on him later. Arriving on Mars, we find out that Cerberus has invaded the facility. The crew meets up with Liara, and we're told that the blueprints for an ancient Prothean weapon called the Crucible were discovered, and it's capable of destroying the Reapers for good. We also have a nice conversation with the Illusiman, who tells us that destroying the Reapers isn't the only option, as he wants to control them. Because, you know, trying to control the big, scary, mind-controlling monster alien robots is always a good plan. Escape isn't without intrigue, as Kaidan gets his shit wrecked by this android lady that was stealing the Crucible data. We make it to the Citadel, and while Kaidan is rushed to the hospital, Shepard and Liara present the data they found to the Council. And the Council isn't willing to help us. Go figure. Thankfully, the Turian Counselor tells us he's willing to give support if we help his people get some footing against the Reapers. Arriving at the Turian homeworld, we reunite with Garrus and we extract Primarch Victus, the leader of the Turian government. Victus says he'll help as long as they can get the Krogan for support, which is kind of a difficult thing to do since the Turians deployed the Genophage on the Krogan. Yeah. During a summit, Rex says he'll help as long as the Genophage is cured. So we're kind of just doing a one long string of favors just to get the Turians on our side, and the Krogan as an added bonus. With the help of the returning Mordin and a female Krogan named Eve, a cure is made and is ready to be deployed on the Krogan homeworld via this giant tower. It turns out in the past, Solarians went to the tower and sabotaged it so that what we're trying to do cannot be done. However, Mordin takes it upon himself to correct the sabotage in exchange for his life because, well,
had to be me. Someone else might have gotten it wrong.
Thanks to Mordin's sacrifice, the Genophage is cured, and we get the Krogan and the Turian support for the war effort. Soon after, the Solarian Counselor contacts us to tell us that Udina might be plotting something, and wants to meet us personally on the Citadel. Upon arrival, the Citadel is being invaded by Cerberus. We also have a run-in with a new villain, anime bitch boy Kai Lang, who might be the one character that the entire Mass Effect fandom can agree is the worst character in the series, and no, him being voiced by Troy Baker doesn't help. He tries to kill the Solarian Counselor, but Thane steps in to save them. Lang ends up inflicting a mortal wound on Thane and makes his escape. So far there aren't any points in Bitch Boy's favor. We end up confronting Udina and then he's shot and killed. Rip Bozo, I guess. Kind of an unsatisfying end to his character, but whatever. With all that said and done, Cerberus is driven off the Citadel and the Quarians contact us saying they might want to help us with the war effort. It's a big might, as the Quarians want our help to end their war with the Geth by reclaiming their homeworld Rannoch. We get a nice reunion with Tali and then go rescue Legion, who was held captive by Geth that were under Reaper control. Once the final assault on Rannoch is done and the Reaper there is taken out via orbital bombardment, that moment was awesome, the Quarians are now attacking the inactive Geth, which is something that Legion is not too fond of, and he starts giving the Geth full individuality, which will end up wiping out the entire Quarian fleet. If you don't want that to happen, you can make peace between the two by completing a bunch of prerequisites and yelling at the Quarians to stop. Sadly, Legion will die regardless of the outcomes, as he needs to deconstruct himself to give the rest of the Geth full sentience. So after making history a second time, the Asari counselor contacts Shepard and says she might have important information regarding the catalyst, the final and most important component of the Crucible. The counselor says she has a secret artifact on the Asari homeworld, Desia. Getting there is quite the task, but once we make it to the temple where the artifact is, we find out that all the researchers were killed. Shepard finds a Prothean beacon that houses a VI that is about to tell us what the catalyst is, but we're then greeted by the researcher's killer, Bitch Boy. So, probably in the worst instance of story and gameplay dissonance, Bitch Boy completely defeats us and steals the VI for the Elusive Man. Yeah, fuck off with your dumbass gunship. Luckily, Bitch Boy's signal was able to be traced to Horizon, where refugees are being turned into husks and used for experiments to control Reaper forces for Cerberus. With the help of the returning Miranda, the Elusive Man's home base is discovered, and once the assault on his base happens, it'll be time to take back Earth. So, I want to pause for a bit before I talk about the finale. I'm going to be talking about the characters and the DLC stories. As far as the returning cast is concerned, we don't get too much in regards to meaningful arcs, and by that I mean, in Mass Effect 2, we see them get to their endpoint by the end of the game, and in Mass Effect 3, we more see them how they react to the events going on. We get plenty of scenes where they just talk about and reflect on what's happened during the game. Garrus is the best bro that ever broed. Tali, depending on how you play, is the lovable techie dork that we all know and love, and Liara is back as BioWare's favorite. Edie is back as mission control, and as a party member you can take on missions since she took over the body of the android on Mars. Joker is over the moon now that Edie has her own robo-body, for obvious reasons, and the dynamic the two share is sweet. At least for a while. Talk about that later. For the newcomers, we got James Vega. I know I joked and called him Lieutenant Jersey Shore earlier, but he doesn't act like that completely. There was actually an animated movie starring James called Paragon Lost, where he fights the Collectors and has to make a difficult decision in the end. The movie's okay. It breaks the rules of the universe with how biotic abilities were handled, but it didn't really affect the plot in any way, so it's just kind of whatever. I played this series pretty late, but I heard nothing but hatred for this guy. It's cooled down, but honestly, I like James. He's not the deepest character, but I do kind of like how he's thrusted into the conflict like a fish out of water, but eventually finds a place in the group. Now, they're not party members, but both Steve Cortez and Samantha Trainer are both a significant part of the Normandy's crew. Cortez is your shuttle pilot, and his arc is about him learning to cope with the death of his husband. Trainer was a technician, but then became Shepard's assistant after the sudden departure from Earth. She starts off really awkward, but learns to be a lot more comfortable with her new position. These two are great additions. They don't overstay their welcome, but they have enough to them to not make them non-entities. Lastly, we have the party member that was initially DLC. Meet Javik, the last living Prothean. He's a fucking asshole, and I love him. Him waking up to a whole new world after being in stasis for 50,000 years might be one of the more impactful scenes in the entire game for me. I love how completely blunt he is about everything and everyone, and his first plan of action is to throw things he doesn't like out the airlock. Being the last of his kind, he is justifiably perpetually pissed off, but it does give him the drive to help finish his final mission. This cast is pretty solid, and the one thing that this game gets completely right is the interactions between the party members, whether it be Garrus and James having their flex off, the little chats between Garrus and Tali, the back and forth banter between James and Cortez. Everyone's personality is on full display, and it's a wonderful thing to see after not having much of this kind of thing in Mass Effect 2. Well, I imagine smaller party helps with that, but my point still stands. Now for the DLC stories. You can do them anytime you want, but I recommend doing them at the end and right before the final mission. First is Omega, in which Arya T'Loak returns and gets Shepard's help taking back Omega from the clutches of Cerberus. This one is pretty simple, but it does introduce us to Nyreen Kandros, the first female Turian we see in the series. That's neat. Nyreen's pretty cool. She dies for no reason at the end regardless of your choices, but she's cool, I guess. The story is fine, nothing too crazy, and it doesn't really add much to the overall narrative. Next up we have the Leviathan DLC, where we go on a big investigation to find someone that killed a Reaper. We're led to believe that there's a possible Reaper defector, but we find it's much more than that. We end up discovering the Leviathans, the species that created the Reapers. Now, why the fucking God's name were these DLC? You'd think learning the origins of the Reapers and getting a Prothean party member would be damn essential, but I suppose this may have been released after the original ending surprised people, and it's not much of an issue now since the remaster includes all the DLC, but I'm gonna bitch anyways because I spent money on these before. Basically, the Leviathans tell us that they were the rulers of the galaxy but could not stop their subjects from building artificial intelligence that would eventually turn them against their creators. Oops. In a brilliant stroke of absolute genius, the Leviathans built their own AI with the order to preserve life by any means. Unfortunately, any means meant harvesting species and turning them into Reapers, with the Leviathans being the first, and their justification for making an AI despite the failures of other species is that the Leviathans are built different. So the reason for the constant cycles is that the Reapers are looking for a permanent solution to stop AI uprisings, and their only temporary method is to hit the reset button every 50,000 years. So after Shepard talks shit, the Leviathans decide to help fight against the Reapers. Disregarding that this story was originally a DLC, I think it does a good job explaining the Reapers' origins despite what the original story was going to be, since the head writer of the series left after Mass Effect 2, and I do think there was enough in the previous games that having Mass Effect 3 do the AI versus organics thing isn't completely out of left field. Now the final story is the Citadel DLC, where the Normandy is called in for some maintenance and the crew is ordered to go on shore leave, and Shepard is gifted Anderson's apartment. Wacky shit ensues as a group of mercs are trying to kill Shepard and is led by none other than a clone of Shepard created by Cerberus, which no one takes seriously.
Fighting your own clone is crazy, even for us.
But useful. If there is a task you don't wish to do, Commander, let them handle it.
So, like a personal butler?
I don't want to talk about it.
Right. So let your clone do it.
Eventually, the clone is killed and the crew has a party to celebrate. And that's kinda it for the story. The Citadel DLC is less about the plot and more about a celebration of how far this cast has come, and the humor is on point the whole way through.
Then we'll find our own way in. Gear up and let's... What's with the Volus?
Oh, pizza delivery guy. I got the munchies.
Double pepperoni.
Earlier, I said that I really enjoyed how this game emphasizes character interactions more, and with this, the praise is multiplied by 100, whether it be Garrus and Zaid rigging the apartment with traps in case another clone shows up, or Tali getting wasted and pretending to be the Normandy. It's all so great, and it's capped off with a really touching scene before the crew makes their way to finish the fight. And with that, it's finally time to take the fight to Earth, but first, we gotta make a detour to give the Elusive Man the good old 1-2 and get the Catalyst data back. The Elusive Man is nowhere to be seen, but Bitch Boy's back for round 2 and goes down just as easily and dies in a way that's honestly pretty satisfying, but probably for different reasons than what the developers intended.
That was profane, you son of a bitch.
Rest in piss, Kyline. You won't be missed. Anyways, we get the Catalyst data and learn that the Citadel itself is the Catalyst, and that connecting the Crucible to it will do some science mumbo-jumbo and release energy or something. Point is, it'll stop the Reapers, and now it's time to go to Earth. And my god, this place looks messed up, and I'm just confused as to how everyone on the planet is still alive while I was busy dancing in my apartment. We learned that the Citadel was moved to Earth and now has a teleporter beam between it and the planet. Really just looks like a Marvel sky beam. So the plan is to get someone, me, to the portal and open up the Citadel so that the Crucible can attach itself to the Catalyst. So we do just that, though not without injury, as Shepard takes a Reaper laser nearly point blank and lives somehow. After a slow limp, Shepard makes it inside the Citadel where he encounters Anderson and the Elusive Man, now looking a lot less human. He's able to control Shepard and Anderson, and the old soldier takes a bullet, but with one big ounce of willpower, Shepard is able to pull the trigger and kill the Elusive Man. Shepard opens up the Citadel for the Alliance, and he and Anderson gaze at the planet below, and Anderson takes his final breath after telling Shepard he's proud of him. The Crucible and the Catalyst are now connected, but nothing seems to be happening, and Shepard is brought into a mysterious room where he's greeted by a glowy child that looks remarkably similar to the kid we saw at the beginning. Oh boy, here we go. So the kid tells us that he's the original Reaper AI that was created by the Leviathans. He kind of just repeats the stuff we heard earlier, and then he gives us our final choice. Control the Reapers like the Elusive Man tried to do. Evolve the DNA of all life in the galaxy so that synthetics and organics can be melded into one, which is what the Reapers want. Destroy the Reapers, the objective of the whole trilogy, or don't use the Catalyst, which will end up with the Reapers winning and beginning the cycle anew, regardless of how your playthrough went. You pick your poison and you get an Adobe After Effects edit over the mass relay energy color. Shepard dies and all is right with the world, I guess. This is it, the infamous ending to the Mass Effect trilogy. This moment was so hated by the community that there was free DLC of an extended cut of the ending where it showed your party getting away and an ending narration by Admiral Hackett detailing some events that happened after your choice. I always pick Destroy because that's pretty much what the entire series was building to, I feel, and it's the only ending where Shepard actually lives. The other endings feel like you're just going along with the villain's plan, so I never liked those and never picked them. So even with the extended cut, this ending is still not loved, and while I don't absolutely despise it like many others do, I don't like it much either. I acknowledge that it has many issues, and that the biggest one is that all the choices made up to this point more or less feel moot, as it all really boils down to just picking one of 3 lights that don't really have much to do with the rest of the story. While I understand that getting an ending where everything turns out fine and everyone lives isn't realistic or anything, I do think it should have been something that could have been earned through gameplay. The destroy ending gets close to that, kind of, but the game says that it would kill all synthetic life, including Edie and the Geth, which I think is kind of bullshit because there isn't really a way to determine what synthetic life even is or means, so it feels like consequences that were pulled out of the writers' asses. To be completely honest, and I don't know if this is a controversial take, but for whatever is going to happen with the new Mass Effect game that was recently announced, I won't mind if they pick a canon ending. They can use the Legendary Collection as a way to get players to transfer save data, but if they decide that the Reapers got destroyed and Shepard lived along with the Geth and Edie, or something along those lines, I think I'd be fine with that. As for the story as a whole, I'd say it's pretty good. There are plenty of moments in this game, like the Geth and Krogan stories, that have satisfying conclusions, and it has some of my favorite moments in the series, like the giant Thresher Maul fighting the Reaper. The story has a ton of moments that are absolutely fantastic, and I love them, but they don't do much to serve the overall narrative beyond just getting help for the final battle. For a good while, we're just tying up loose ends established in the previous games until we're told that the Prothean data is on Thessia. For the most part, it's just doing other things while we wait to get some answers, which I'm not sure if I can say I'm too big of a fan of. I think I would have preferred Shepard to take a more proactive role in trying to find the catalyst and then running into the Krogan and Geth plots while doing so, but I guess that would have been harder to do given the whole war circumstances. The story definitely has a shift in feel compared to the previous games, and it does carry itself more like an action movie, but I don't think it could have been done any other way given how Mass Effect 2 ended. The story isn't perfect. I mean, there's the ending, but some of the stuff involving Cerberus just doesn't feel right. We don't really get clear reasons for why Cerberus invades the Citadel or why Udina decided to work with them, hence why I called his death unsatisfying. And I know I made fun of him the whole video, but Kai Lang is the most out-of-place thing in this game. He's a fucking anime character, and I like anime, but that's not what Mass Effect does. He's treated as this big tough rival character, but when he's introduced in the finale, it's just dumb, especially because it seems like they want us to care about him in some regard. It also sucks because he's one of the very few bosses in the series. Blech. You just shoot him for a bit, then he hides like a bitch, then shoot him some more. There's no real strategy. And on that note, the shift in gameplay from Mass Effect 2 to 3 isn't too big of a leap compared to that of 1 and 2. Which means this video is pretty damn short if you decide to skip the story section. What we have here is sort of a hybrid of the best parts of the previous games and makes what I think is the best Mass Effect combat hands down. For starters, the level up system isn't as bare bones as it is in Mass Effect 2, and it's not as overwhelmingly huge as Mass Effect 1's. Shepard and friends get 5 to 8 abilities to upgrade, and barring the first tier which unlocks the power, they're all passive, and once you get past the third tier in an ability, you'll be given the choice between one of 2 different upgrades, like the choice between more damage for grenades or a bigger blast radius. I prefer going for damage increases, as I just like to kill things faster than they can kill me. But it's not like the enemies in this game are bullet sponges. In fact, they can be quickly and absolutely obliterated when using the right powers from both Shepard and your teammates. One thing this game introduces is combos, where one person primes an enemy and the other person detonates. Like how if I use my fire ability on this guy, he'll be burning for a little bit, and then if I use a high impact shot like Garrus' concussive blast, it'll cause the enemy to explode, doing a bunch of damage. There's also a lot of variety when it comes to the different weapons you can use, and you can put attachments on them to give them extra stat boosts. We're also not limited by character class when it comes to the weapons we can use, a change I very much appreciate. I like going with the assault rifle and sniper combo, specifically the Black Widow and the N7 Valkyrie, which pack an absurdly huge punch at the exchange of lower ammo capacity and very heavy weight values. The weight mechanic determines the cooldown on power usage, and you can get it to be 200% faster or slower. With the weapons I usually carry, I try to keep it around 0% or below if I can, as guns are my preferred method of Reaper killing, but I still use powers enough to not want the cooldown to be hindered too much. The weight system is an excellent way for player customization, and going into battle with 200% cooldown decrease makes those playing biotic classes extremely effective. Still not too huge on the universal power cooldown in general, but this mechanic is a great compromise and adds even more replayability to this infinitely replayable series. Once again, you'll be doing things outside of the combat, and this time there aren't any vehicles to drive, which I kinda miss, not gonna lie, despite how janky the previous ones were. Our main hub is the Citadel, the place where you can purchase supplies, settle disputes, and punch reporters in the... Ow. While you're there, you'll be given a myriad of side quests, which most of them boil down to just go to this planet and find a thing by launching a probe and then bring it back. Your rewards for doing these are money, reputation, and war assets. Reputation increases your morality meter, but it's neutral alignment. War assets don't really do anything in terms of gameplay, but it will determine the state of the galaxy during the ending, so yeah, get as many as you can. The game overall has a really good flow to it, and every enemy feels unique, and you'll have a strategy down for each of them. The enemy variety is kind of lacking, at least on the server side, but it's not too bad. In the Citadel DLC, the concept of an arcade battle arena mode was brought back, and unlike Pinnacle Station from the first game, Mass Effect 3's combat lends itself better to this kind of thing, and it's way more expansive. To get a higher score, you'll want to set limiters on yourself, like not being able to use Metagel or not having extra ammo pickups on the field. You can even unlock the party members from Mass Effect 2 in this mode. Unfortunately, they're only available in the arcade mode, but it's still really cool. Something I really would have liked is if you could actually play as the other party members in this mode and have interesting combinations with them. Look, all I'm saying is I really want to play as Garrus. As I said before, Mass Effect 3 has the best gameplay in the series, as it takes what worked from both of the previous games and made stellar improvements on them, and in some cases takes what didn't work and made them great as well. Now I know I said that I found Mass Effect 2 better than 1, and this game better than 2, but that was more in a gameplay sense, and if these video lengths are anything to go by, this series is more than its gameplay. The experiences, the story, and the journey that you create is something else, and it makes the whole series special. It's really awesome to think that no one's first playthrough will be the same. The sheer amount of player input this series has is, to my knowledge, unparalleled. I genuinely have a very hard time deciding which game is my favorite game in the series, and thankfully, I don't have to decide, because guess what? I'm copping out. Mass Effect Legendary Edition is one of my favorite games of all time. Like I said in my previous videos, always start with the first game. It just doesn't feel complete, and thankfully with the collection, you don't have to worry about that. You really need that sense that it's your adventure, and which is why I will never understand why Mass Effect 3 and Mass Effect 3 alone was on the Wii U. What?